Everybody does something to make their life easier by organizing different things. I know I was a stickler for that in my classroom, that every kid had to have certain folders, to finished work, work they're working on, math work, everything in a place so that it's easy to find, and I hope that they learned it. But parents would tell me years later that I helped them become organized and organized students.
Oh, that's great.
So that made me happy, and of course, that's why I write about these things, because I think it's so important.
It is very important, because I think when your home or your belongings or your work area are any of those places can be messy. I think it messes up your thinking, because you're questioning all the time, where did I put that, or how am I going to find this, or where are things, or what am I going to do with it, or did I throw that away, or did I finish?
But you want kids especially to be successful people, and part of being successful is being organized. I don't think disorganized people are going to keep jobs.
No.
Not if there's an organized person who's going to do the job correctly and follow through and know where everything is. So, you hope that, to me, it's such an important life skill, being organized.
Yes, it is a very, very important life skill. And I think teachers are in a great position to help kids with that. Like I teach piano now, so I help my kids organize their music. They have their books, and then they have papers that aren't part of a book. It could be informational stuff, things they need to study, scales, or
so what
music
do they do?
theory.
Do they keep that in a binder?
They have a binder, and I tell them to get those clear plastic folders, and I have all my music organized that way. And I have a different color. For Mr. Brahms is blue, Brahms for blue. Mr. Beethoven is gold. So, they all have a color, and the kids know when I pull out those folders.
So you're teaching them an important skill too. Even with music, you need to be organized.
So at the end of this book, we have advice for parents. And when I said that this is a book for children, and it's also for parents, I was thinking, if I were a parent, and my children were maybe a year old, or 2 years old or something, I would still want this book, because it would give me some great ideas about how to bring them up when they get a bit older, because I think they have to start younger. And
because it does say 4 to 9 is the age, but I do think you could probably
I think for any age, it's a really good idea, because children start things when they're 3 or 4 years old. They go to preschool or wherever they go when they're really little, and they have to learn to be organized then too, in a small way. But they need to keep track of time, or bring their lunch, or remember to bring their jacket home.
There are so many character traits. This is a new publisher, and I was so excited when I saw her mission, because I think it's a wonderful mission. Like, we need books that help us to develop our children in the best way possible, and that's her goal, is to find books that fit a particular character trait. And of course mine was organization, but she's doing that with other books as well.
But there are other things in it too. Being helpful with mom, and sharing, and having friends, and dealing with your friends' parents. And so there's a lot of interpersonal stuff in this too. And I was also thinking, well, what if I were grown up and I didn't have any children? I would still get something out of this book.
Do you know what's funny? In my first bookstore book signing, a woman was waiting there, a very elderly woman, and I thought she was joking at first. She said she was buying it for her sister, and her sister, she looked very old, and she said her sister was 80-something years old, but she was buying it for her because she still has a messy room.
Well, that's a great idea, and that's what I just said, if I were grown up with, well, I am grown up, I have been for many, many years, but if I had no children, and I had even a slightly messy room, I would still get a lot out of this book. Because you have, it's fun reading the story at any age. I was entertained.
I think that's an art form picture, a picture book, because it combines the words and pictures, and it's in 15 minutes or less. You have a quick read, you learn something. I love picture books. That's all I want to write is picture books.
It's a sweet story.
Thank you.
It's very nice, and it was very thoughtful of you to come up with this idea of Ruth the Sleuth. And
well, my mom's name is Ruth.
I know.
So, you know, I had that name, and I wanted a rhyming name just for a fun title.
Well, it's great.
A lot of my titles are very serious, so I wanted a fun title. So I was glad it all came together.
It's a fun book, and I think parents, I can't think of any parents who wouldn't get something out of this at the end, because, you know, we're teachers, so we're accustomed to how to train children, and we train lots of them at once, but parents only have the 1, 2, or 3 children maybe, and they're all different from one another, and they're not teachers maybe, so they're dealing with things on a case-by-case basis, where we're dealing with things in a cross-section. It's a whole different thing. So I think that parents have quite a bit to learn about this. And I think it would be helpful for any parents, even if they are already organized. It confirms, like, oh yes, I'm doing that the right way. But there are things that could help anyone. And
thank you, Terry. You're an excellent sales lady.
Well, I really like this book, and as I told you, I taught organizational skills, so
that's
I love being organized, and I'm so organized people make fun of me.
I'm glad you were turned around.
Oh yes, me too.
So we have, what's the name of that teacher? We have her to thank. Mrs. Kennedy?
Mrs. Kennedy.
Yes.
Mrs. Kennedy.
Thank you, Mrs. Kennedy.
Thank you, Mrs. Kennedy, for telling me I'm disorganized. You changed my life.
See, I felt sad because I like to say it in a positive way, but she did a wonderful job on you.
She did a great job. Well, thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you for having me.
It was great talking with you. We don't get
Always
a chance
fun.
to talk very often because we're always so busy.
Right.
But I hope you write another Ruth the Sleuth book, and we'll be back here talking about it.
I'm going to keep working on it, and hopefully it'll get published.
Keep working. And I want to thank everyone for watching today. We've been talking with Carol Gordon Ekster on Books and Authors. We're talking about Ruth the Sleuth, and this is Terry Kelly saying goodbye for now.